Hello everybody and welcome to a quick Dwarf Fortress tutorial. In this video we're going to be building a tavern and explaining kind of the basics of what you need for a tavern and how to get one up and running, and what kind of to expect when you get one running. So, in Dwarf Fortress, one thing that is very crucial for dwarven survival is intoxication. So, this is best provided by a tavern filled with food and various other glorious accoutrements. So, what we're going to do is we're going to designate a small space to build it into a tavern. So, we need a nice little open area with enough space for some dancing, as well as general activities that you would have in a tavern. Optionally, we can also attach a small room on the side and fill it up with beds and use it as a dormitory for any interesting visitors who wish to stay for an extended period of time. So we're just going to quickly designate this up. This is going to be for visitors, this is going to be our tavern, and we're going to just kind of pause, and once this is all dug out, I will resume the video and we will talk about what needs to be completed. As they are digging out the area, one thing that we're going to need to do is we're going to need to smooth everything. So over here on the left, you can see the bedroom area, or future bedroom area, kind of dormitory thing, is now finished being dug out. So I'm going to set that for smoothing. When you build a tavern, you want it to be big enough so that they have space to dance. You kind of want things to be about give them about 5 tiles across, approximately, in at least a square, so that they can build a space for dancing and making merry and doing the sort of things you would do in a tavern. We're also going to need to supply this with alcohol, which is being constructed down in the food stockpile just beneath here, which is full of all kinds of booze as well as plenty of mugs. We're going to need to put a stockpile for some of that in there as well. Now the entire tavern has been dug out, as well as we are still smoothing those bedrooms. We're going to select the tavern and set it to be smoothed as well. Now, since the area that we're going to be using for our dormitories is open and finished, what we're going to do is we're going to grab a couple of beds. We're going to jump over here into the furniture screen, and we're going to click Keep Building After Placement, just so I can build a few. Now, we're not going to need too many. In this case, I think we're going to make maybe 5 or 6 beds. Just get these all placed up, and then we are going to assign this area as a dormitory. This dormitory, once it's assigned, is going to be connected to the main area here, which we're going to be using for our tavern. Any good tavern needs a door, so we're going to build a door. We're going to jump over here into doors and hatches and place a door in the front door to the tavern. Now, since they are still smoothing stuff out, we can assign zones already, but what we're going to do before we do that is we are going to set up furniture. Once again, table is very important. We're just going to use the nearest ones. Now, each chair needs its own table, so you can make big rows of tables and chairs. Just make sure you don't assign multiple chairs to the same table, otherwise the dwarves get kind of annoyed of who can put their food on it. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of run along the edge here, as we don't have that much space with a bunch of tables, and then we're going to back out of that menu, and we're going to go grab thrones, or chairs if they're made of wood. Any self-respecting dwarf, though, would use a throne. We're going to place our thrones along here. Now keep in mind that this one may end up fighting with this one for space on this table, but I'm just going to kind of hope it's not going to be an issue. We're also going to place a door on the way into our little side area here for our visitors and guests. And then what we're going to do is we're going to place one of the most important things into this room, the chest, or coffer in this instance. Now, the reason a coffer is important is that's where mugs are kept. Very important thing for any self-respecting fortress tavern. Then we're going to build a stockpile over here, and instead of backing out of the stockpile button, I'm going to actually accept it this time, and we're going to set this as a food stockpile. But I'm going to make it a custom stockpile so we don't have one specific thing in here. I don't want any seeds. So we are going to make this into a custom stockpile in the stockpile section. We're going to go to seeds, and we're going to hit none, so that they don't put seeds in that stockpile. Just uncooked fish, just uncooked food, prepared meals, and the likes. If we had a full kitchen setup, what I would do is I would say none on all of these and only allowed prepared meals, and I don't know why raw meat was still allowed there, and then drinks and drinks. But because I don't actually have a kitchen set up in this fortress yet, I'm not going to I wouldn't worry about that. So we're just going to allow everything and remove seeds. Now, the next thing we need to do is we need to actually assign these zones. So we're going to either press Z on the keyboard to open up the zoning hotkey, or alternatively click on this little face of a dwarf. Now, we're going to assign a meeting area. And now you might be thinking, I thought we were making a tavern. Well, taverns come out of meeting areas. It's just Dwarf Fortress. Don't worry about it too much. Once the area has been selected, we can now click this little plus button here. And currently it's called the unnamed meeting hall, but we can select this little plus button down here. And then we're going to be given several options. We can make an inn tavern, a library, a hospital, a temple, or a guild hall. We're going to make this into an inn and tavern, which is why we have these beds, so it's officially an inn instead of just a tavern. So now that it's selected, it's still called the unnamed meeting hall, but this zone now has a name, the Gilded Slayer. So I could just rename this into Tavern, just so that it's easier to keep track of. So the Gilded Sugar, not Slayer, is the name of this little tavern here. And now we've constructed a tavern. We're going to connect this little meeting hall, or this little dormitory, to the tavern as well. So we're going to select the dormitory option, accept it, and then we're going to click this button. Assign a new existing location to this zone. Locations are groups of zones and rooms with a larger purpose, like a tavern, temple, library, or guild hall. So we are going to assign this as part of the Gilded Sugar, which is our recent tavern. I do have a temporary tavern up on the main floor called the Onion of Wheeling, but don't worry about that. We're going to select this, and now we have this dormitory connected to this tavern. So as you can see, visitors have already started piling in, and you can see the turkeys have joined in, as well as somebody's already hanging out in the dormitory. And that is how you set up a basic tavern in Dwarf Fortress. Now, one more thing that we're going to do before I end this video is we're going to select this tavern, and we're going to click on this little magnifying glass on the shield. This is set details for this assigned location. This is something that you want to make sure that you're aware of. If you don't want visitors, maybe you don't like your neighbors or are afraid that criminals and thieves may sneak into your fortress and steal your things, you may want to set it to citizens only. However, if you've set it up as an inn, like we have in this instance, we're going to set it to all visitors welcome. Of course, there's also citizens and long-term residents only, meaning people that have already petitioned for a right to stay here, but maybe aren't full members of your fortress yet, as well as local traveling royals or members of your own faction visiting alongside of a caravan. We're just going to leave it public to all visitors welcome. The next thing that we want to look at here is the number of goblets that are stored in this tavern. We can increase this, and then they will bring mugs and goblets into the tavern. Also, if you would like to assign a tavern keeper or performer, we can do that here. If we happen to have a bard that lives in our fortress, we could assign them as a performer. Or a dwarf that would like to perform, we could assign them as a performer. Alternatively, you can assign a tavern keeper. A tavern keeper's job is to run around in the fortress and serve people alcohol. This can cause problems if you don't have beds set up, because if somebody falls asleep on the floor, the dwarves will assume that they're thirsty and continue pouring alcohol onto their head until they drown, or die of alcohol poisoning, whichever one hits first. So if you are going to assign a tavern keeper, make sure you have a place for your visitors to sleep. Thank you very much for watching this video on inns and taverns. If you would like to see more tutorials for Dwarf Fortress, check out my YouTube channel. I have a huge playlist of these. And if you want to see me play video games on the internet, mostly Dwarf Fortress, but occasionally other things, you can go to twitch.tv/BLINDIRL for my Twitch channel. Links also in the description. And if you like my voice, I have a podcast. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.